Welcome to another episode of Explore Randolph County. I'm JR. That's Justin. And
Hello.
So you notice we're kind of in a different setting here.
We're in a different studio. What's going on?
Well, because we're doing the Superintendent Dilly way. We shut down the other studio, taxed the people more, and opened up a new one on taxpayers' dime. Wasn't that his plan?
We don't get taxpayer money. We don't even get money. What are you
But
talking?
that was his plan, right?
I have too many
That got
notes.
shot down.
I have too many
So
notes.
let's just first recognize the Board of Education members. Thank you
I was beyond
very
shocked.
much.
Beyond shocked. Thank you. Thank you.
for
4-1.
putting no, I wasn't saying 4-1. For putting
Oh, FOR.
the kids
First, yes.
first,
Yes.
which is what we constantly hear that these board members say. It's all about the kids.
But it's never about the kids. It's
The
always
board
about the money.
members put the kids first. Thank you
Was
very
shocked.
much.
I got to tell you, I sat there. I was up. I couldn't sleep very well last night. Between the texts and the messages from the people in Harman, I was just blown away. I was blown away with 4-1. I thought, just from some of the stuff I was attempting to read, I acted like I knew what I was doing. I was like,
Were you reading body language?
I was talking to other people in my side. I am blown away, but I'm so appreciative. I mean, really. The only person who voted to close was the president of the Board of Education, Rachel, and she was the only one that said, yeah, close. But the other 4 said no, keep it open, and I'm shocked.
And another
Beyond
important
shocked.
vote tonight
In
as
Pickens.
they decide if they're going to keep Pickens open as well.
And unfortunately, Diane texted me saying, are you going to be in Tigers Valley? I said, Diane, I mean, these last 2 days, first off, we had a massive snowstorm. I drove to Elkins last night in not good weather.
In the snow, another little snow squall
Another
or
snowstorm.
whatever you want to call it.
And so they canceled Monday. They postponed Monday night to Tuesday night, and then Dilly said, no, I have to stay on this for his timeline of what he wanted to do. We had to stay on, so they did it. So not a lot of people from Harman were there, believe it or not. There's probably 50. The parents said, we're not bringing our kids over the mountain,
which
makes sense.
smart. I mean, you're not that bright, so.
Well, listen, I lived in Chicago for 12 years too, though.
And you have to drive back and forth to D.C.
Yeah.
in weather like this, so.
And so after you live in Chicago 12 years, I covered Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska. I got stuck in Fargo, so I'm not that afraid of snow. But they didn't bring kids, which I didn't think was inappropriate. I didn't think was
That was the right decision.
that was appropriate.
Yeah, it was
Thank you.
appropriate, yeah.
And so we were there till 10 o'clock last night, got the vote, and
So
it was unbelievable.
I got to watch a little bit on YouTube
Mm-hmm.
because I had my own. I had a Chamber of Commerce meeting that we had to vote some stuff on. So I got to watch them on YouTube. Let me first say, whoever does their audio,
Is it bad?
it was lousy.
Somebody was.
It was lousy.
So I had my phone.
And as a person whose job is audio,
Yeah.
who runs professional sound, it was cutting out.
It was okay there in person. But people were saying on Facebook, were texting us saying, hey, we can't hear, it's cutting out. So we had people say it. So actually Lacey went up with her personal phone, and I think she did Facebook Live.
Okay, I didn't get to see that.
No, she did it live, and I gave her my stand. I'm like, here, because she was like up there. I'm like, use this at least. So
Yeah, because it was like every other word, and I'm like, oh God, I can't follow this.
yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, it's.
I don't know if it's the internet or
Listen,
the way they were running their mics into it.
I will say this, because when we worked with Grant County, because Grant County was taken over, and the superintendent said last night, Grant County, he said this, he said Grant County got taken over by the state, and they didn't like it. And I talked to people from Grant County that said it was the best thing to happen to Grant County.
Decision. We were here for it.
I wasn't.
Yeah,
but I talked to people.
I was
but
here
you
for
were.
it, but yeah.
But I talked to people, and they're like, it was the best thing because the superintendent was out of control. The board wasn't helping. It was a mess, is what we were told. But he brought that up.
Yeah, but here's the thing, because normally the superintendents are the first ones to lose their job in that.
They do lose their
so
job,
they don't
yeah.
want the state to take over. That was all about self-preservation, because it actually helps, because the state sees a problem and they're like, okay, we're going to fix it. Now, in my opinion, I think the state board needs to come in and take over again for Grand County, because the Grand County's not doing real well with their test scores. But
well, listen. So I have a load of stuff to talk about.
yeah,
a load of stuff.
You took tons of
I took notes.
So I'm interested to hear some of the things.
So I'm going to tell you first. I'm going to tell you this, and I said it last night coming home over the mountain in the snow. I'm like, get me to Seneca Rocks, please. Once I'm in Seneca, I can at least go. I can at least speed up to 50. But it taught me, because we've sat in some board meetings, but we've not sat in board meetings where there was as much dialogue between the superintendent and the Board of Education members. Normally, the public speaks and we leave, which probably isn't the right thing, because that's when they do the business. But there was a lot of dialogue, and I sat here in the chair and I said, oh my God, I see why the Board of Education members vote like they vote. The information they're given is not transparent. It's a little slimy how the superintendent gives it, and he's not very honest. He says, "Oh, I'm transparent." He's not transparent, and so there was stuff that the Board of Education members found out last night that I knew, and I'm like, "Why do I know stuff that Dilly's just telling them?" Like Rachel, the president, said, I can't vote to let people off. And I'm sitting here thinking, if you shut down the schools, you still have to let – I knew there was 11 for Harman. I found out last night there was another 11 for Pickens. So they're going to have to let go of 22 people.
Yeah.
So they didn't know that. And so the question came up. So I knew about the 11 for Harman.
I think we had figured – I think in one of the podcasts we had figured up on their totals.
For the money.
If you're closing the school or not, you're letting people go.
Yeah.
And I think we said it was only – 11 more people that they were letting go by closing the school.
It was going to be 32 that needed to be let go to financially right-size it. But I forget what the number was. But we knew that. But the way he words it, dude, you want to talk about what's it called? Resetting the narrative or whatever
where they went out to California.
Whatever.
I don't know if that would be interesting to see if he went out to California.
I don't think he was superintendent then. I think he was overseas. I don't think he was living in the States.
It was last year.
I think he was out of the country.
Was he out of the country last year?
I'm
when
guessing.
Was he hired?
He was
just hired
he
at the
just
beginning
got hired,
of the school year?
No, just in June. Yeah, June, July. He's very new. And so there was a lot of very powerful businessmen. Senator Mike Ross was there. He did an amazing job. But listening to how the superintendent told the Board of Education member stuff, I sat there going, dude, first off, my personality is I don't trust what you tell me. I want to verify it.
Yeah.
Unless you're my wife, and then I trust her 100%, or
really?
she'll hit me.
I even verify mine. I'm like, hold on, let me fact check you, honey.
She'll hit me. No, but so hearing the stuff he said to them and how he worded it, I thought this is the problem. In my opinion, there needs to be a vote of incompetence for the superintendent.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I was going to say the same thing.
Blown away.
The first thing I would do is get rid of him.
So Mike Ross asked the question, and he questioned the amount of people working in the front office. And he said, I think you only need 8 people there. I heard you had 39 there. So his number wasn't right. The number was 32.5.
32 and a half. I don't know where the half is, but yeah, that's odd. But
it's someone shorter than me, I guess. So
it could be Dilly. Maybe Dilly's the half.
Don't pick on Dilly's side. Don't pick on that.
Hey, listen, one bald man to another, we're allowed to pick on him.
Well,
he's bald too.
Well, it's he's not insecure about that. So, So Mike Ross says there's 39, and Dilly is there 39, and Dilly says no, that's not true. Well, there's 32.5. So Dilly he wasn't dishonest. He said there's not 39, but outside of the 32.5, I know because Brad told me there's another 5 or 6 that work in the office, even though they're not considered central office employees. So,
and did I hear somewhere that they just hired 2 more?
They said that they hired more. Now, but here's the thing, though, they are short on teachers.
I was told this wasn't teacher positions. I don't know.
I don't
we got
know.
to dig into that.
Listen, I have so many thumb drives and so many. It's a lot because I do have a full-time job, and I have a pastor job, and I have a family, and so I do as much as I can in my downtime. But so when he was commenting on stuff, he would say, so I felt like the president of the Board of Education was setting up questions like softball questions to the superintendent. That's what I felt.
to get a desired response.
Correct. Now, that's what I felt.
Yeah.
I can't judge a heart.
Yeah.
That's what I felt. That was my opinion.
Well, you can always tell.
It was very, and when they voted, she voted. All those in favor say yay. If say yay,
Say aye.
Aye. She was spot on, and we knew that she was. We knew she didn't care about the kids. It wasn't a focus of hers about the children. So it was interesting though, because somebody asked about Harman struggling in the schools. So Harman is on CSI. Am I saying that right? Is there CIS or C?
Well, CIS is community and schools.
No, it's CSI.
Okay.
Because Harman's struggling with education.
I think that's the same thing that they put union on.
Correct. And that was with the previous principal. So Dilly was making a presentation about Harman's school scores. And here's the thing that blows me away. Blows my mind. If I'm the head of a company and I'm making a presentation on let's say, I'm just going to make up something, my janitorial staff. My janitorial staff is the worst janitorial staff in the entire country. Mm-hmm. If let's say I'm the president, let's say I'm the general manager of a company. What do you think the president's going to do? Fire the staff or fire me?
Probably going to get rid of you
because
and say it was your fault.
I'm in charge of it. So
yeah.
He's talking about how poor the scores are. So I look back to a teacher said, CSI, we talked to a principal who had a school on that. She said the superintendent was there on top of it, pushing. How many times has Dilly been to Harman? She said once, and that's because we invite him. He's not been there. Well, so the superintendent this last 5-6 months is not focused on the education, which suffers, and he's not been there helping them. The lady said, listen, we had to call the state people. And so behind Dilly was a lady who deals with that. I don't know what her name was. She was in the back. I really couldn't see her. But there seems to be a lack of support because they're like, well, Dilly's been here only once. And it's because we invited him here. And so...
Well, it starts from the top down.
Totally agree.
So
I've always said it's always leadership.
You recognize it. You get your butt in there. You put in the extra hours. You give them the help they need to bring the scores up. Not, let's close it down.
Yeah. Well, that's where his focus has been. Somebody asked a really good question, and I thought it was, and you can't have dialogue back and forth, right? But somebody said, if you came into office in June, July, seeing this was an issue, what cost-cutting measures have you implemented right away? None have implemented. And then Dilly said, well, I've met with businessmen and we've talked about plans, but none of those plans were really sustainable or whatnot. I met with him and Brad. There was never the question, I said this after our meeting, never the question of what ideas do you have? How can you help us? It was, here's my 5-year plan. Here's what I want to do. Here's what needs to be done. I need to close Harman and Pickens first. Then we'll close some Elkin schools. Then I'll show the need for a bond. I'll tell people we need a bond because we're overcrowded here, even though we have 2 schools we shut down. And we'll need a bond. So that was kind of the strategy of you make it really hard and then people vote for the bond. So that came up last night. Levy. So somebody said, well, have you thought about, and like I said, you can't have dialogue in these meetings. Have you ever thought about telling the people of Randolph County, if you don't vote for a levy, we're going to have to close schools? Have you ever thought about that? And let the people decide. Say, I think maybe one of the Board of Education members asked that. I think she did. I'm going from memory, which was a great question. And the comment was, well, we couldn't do the levy in time. And this is when I was texting you and I was emailing Brad. We can't do the levy in time because we can't do it till 2026 based on timing, such and such. And so Brad sent me some of the state legislation I've not looked at yet. But so the whole
I'd love to read that because my understanding is anytime there is an election, you can put it on the ballot.
Well,
and there are off-year elections.
Yeah, but the next one wouldn't be till 2026. There's not one in 2025.
I can speak by Grant County. I'm pretty sure in May of 2025, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought there was an election.
So maybe that's county. Because Brad had the attorney sitting beside him, and I'm like, ask the person beside you what the law says. So anyway, so that was...
But I don't think when you're getting $50 whatever million a year, putting a levy on is not the answer.
So Mike Ross, who, and you're going to laugh at this, Mike Ross is a Democrat, but he's an old school Democrat.
You're right. No.
But he's an old school Democrat. And so it's funny because we say, The old school Democrats are nothing like the new liberal Democrats, right? Really respected him. He had wisdom in what he said. And he said, you are one county over from the guy who's second in I don't know if it's second in command or
second in line.
Yeah, if the governor goes down, he's the next governor, which we're friends with.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I was like, we've been pinging him. You've been pinging him because you're friends with him. And so, he's like, hey, you need, and remember, this was a past senator, one of the most successful businessmen in Randolph County, giving his speech to everyone, the Board of Education members and the superintendent. And, you need to go ask for money. You need to do this. I will help you. We need to delay this. I will help you. And here's what Dilly says. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Ross, but I've heard this from politicians before, and we can't vote on hope. We have to vote on what we're dealing with today. We can't vote on your what you're saying could happen. We can't do it, which is true. But I'm sitting here saying,
but Dilly's whole plan is based off of a pipe dream.
Well, it's based off of his dream. It's his vision, so to say. But you're talking about I have Diet Coke. You're talking about one of the most successful businessmen in Randolph County and a past senator. When he said that to past senator, I thought, this guy is arrogant.
Here's the thing.
This guy is arrogant.
He's lived off the government's tit his whole life, and he doesn't know how to run a business.
Well, we're finding that out. The fact that, and I think it was Mike Ross who said, what have you done to cut costs since you found out you were in this situation? Nothing's been done. I asked them the same thing when I was there. Well, listen, what are you doing? Since you knew this was going to happen, I asked Brad, you said in 2022 this was going to happen. What have you done since 2022? What have you done? If you knew you were coming up against a cliff, if I know from my family, because the way my money works for my company is I get bonuses and whatnot, salary. I get a small salary with bonuses. So I know when my bonuses come. I know when they don't come. And so I know, hey, we're living off this bonus, but listen, there's a little bit of lead time. I mean, it could be like you. You have a slow season.
Yeah, like now,
Yeah, you're in slow season.
Yeah.
But when it's in slow season, how you do as a family, how you're responsible. And so the fact that they couldn't answer about what they did to cut costs during that time blew my mind. I was beyond shocked about that.
Here's the next thing I would do if I was the Board of Education. So they've made some good steps by voting to keep it open. So here's the next thing I would do. Because Mom said it this morning. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Mm-hmm. It might seem small, but the first thing I would do, and I would put it on their agenda, I would vote that there are no trips.
Yeah.
Because now they can do trips up to $10,000 without. I would get rid of that and say, we approve every trip. If it can be taken on Zoom, because remember, he wanted the kids to do virtual. So if it can be on Zoom, you will be here on Zoom. No trips.
So I emailed Brad the list of some trips. I'm waiting to hear it back to find out what it's for, and because I want to put a dollar amount to it. But the transparency is very hard. But I want to tell you this. So when I talked with Dilly, it was this Friday before Christmas, maybe the 20th or something like that. He said we can do a virtual learning for Harman with Barber County. And I wrote it down, Barber County. Okay, Barber County does it, and they'll do it for us. So then now I'm telling you hearsay. I've not been able to confirm it. Then I got hearsay, and I told Mike Ross, said, Mike, if you heard some of the calls we've got, someone said, listen, this is hearsay, haven't verified it. We heard that Dilly was told if he closes down schools in Randolph County, they're going to make him the next superintendent in Kanawha. And so he's wanting to push this because he's going to make about $150,000, and he'll be in I think it was one of the biggest counties, and that's where Charleston is. And they said, what I was told on the QT was, this is why he's doing this. He's going to go to Kanawha. So then last night he made a statement, and so this could be coincidental. He said, now the virtual learning is going to be done by Kanawha County. And I wrote that down. I'm like, Kanawha, he said Barber County.
Yeah.
So maybe he misspoke both times. I would assume he didn't because he's educated. But so I'm like, maybe that is real. Maybe that's true because we get.
No, he has an education.
Well,
there's a difference.
He should be educated.
He has an education.
He should be. He's a doctor. He has a doctorate in something.
He has an education.
He said he taught art in elementary school. So maybe he has a degree. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Is there a doctorate in art? I have no clue.
I think college today will give you anything you want.
that I do believe you.
Yeah. If they're doing gender studies as a degree,
they
can give you an art doctorate.
Oh, you would have loved it. Some guy last night talked about inclusion. No, equity. And I'm like, oh God, glad Jared's not here. So that was interesting. So we're trying to figure that out. But the biggest challenge I have right now is he said there are only 11 positions to be cut, is what he said. And Rachel said, I can't make any more cuts. Emotionally, it's been a hard 2-3 years because they've cut every year. Because why are they cutting?
Kids are not coming to their school.
School attendance is down. Kids don't want to go. Some people spoke about that's the legislation's fault. Even Mike Ross said the Hope Scholarship.
The Hope Scholarship.
He said some of that, some of that stuff.
Now remember, this is where I'm going to pick on Mike Ross. That's a Democrat talking, because Republicans believe in school choice.
So I didn't say Mike Ross said anything.
You said about the Hope Scholarship.
Mike Ross was talking. Let me back up to give you the whole story. Mike Ross was talking about school choice, and he said so much money has went to the Hope Scholarship, so people to be able to choose how they want to. And I'm 100% in school choice.
I'm school choice 100%.
I put my kids in public schools. You homeschool. I'm 100% agree. We should be able to choose. But what I told him, I said, Mike, we were told by legislation that Randolph County's got more money the last 4 years, every year more money. They ran off of a $55 million, almost $55 million budget. So I said, Mike, it's not an issue of revenue; it's an issue of spending. And then he brought up about the issue with the central office staff. So one thing I wanted to say is, so Rachel said I can't vote to let more people go, and I wrote down you still have to let people go if you close Harman. Because I'm like,
I don't get
where's she coming from? So I don't know. And the other thing is, and I hate to say it, I shut down facilities in 2008 when the Great Recession hit. I went and shut down a facility. You're talking about 100. It's not fun, but it's what you got paid to do. And so when I went and shut down a facility and let people go, you go do it. Or what do? You resign.
Yeah.
And you say, I can't do this anymore. So hearing that she can't do that, it makes me wonder about if this is the position for her, because unfortunately you have to make those decisions. It's tough. Yeah. And the challenge is, I'm asking, someone brought up about homeschooling and stuff. I'm asking, why are kids leaving education? Why are they leaving public schools?
I can give you a laundry list of why we left.
Well, I was told by Dilly, I said, well, listen, because he's pushing that the reason why the scores are bad in Randolph County is we don't have the opportunities to invest in all these programs. That's what he says. This money in closing the schools will give us the money to make the investment in the children. And I asked him one-on-one, I said, well, listen, how does a homeschooler invest this kind of money? They don't have that kind of money to invest in homeschool. And why do they perform better than public schools? That's not true. So really, I have lots of results that'll show you.
I went on with the National Foundation. Good thing you brought that up, because we searched it out, and they perform much higher. Even the lower kids because you always talk about the thirds.
Yeah.
In thirds. You have your good performers, your just middle performers, and your low performers.
Struggles, yeah.
Even the low performers in homeschooling perform better than the school system. So I don't know where he's getting his information from.
Listen, it's all about setting the narrative. And he did it all night. Any of his questions were all about setting the narrative.
Tell me some of them, because since I didn't get to listen to.
Well, first off, this the school bus came up. And this was funny. And, I don't know the guy. I think his name's Nick Alfred. I don't know him personally. I met him. He's in charge of transportation. I felt bad for the guy, because when I looked at what he proposed, I thought, oh, my God, Nick. Because I felt bad, because what he proposed was kind of embarrassing. We can make sure kids are not on the buses 60 minutes by having parents drive them in to meetup points. So he said, well, Harman does a very good job picking up kids in front of their house. And why is that true in rural USA? Because you don't have subdivisions.
Yeah.
It's not like downtown Petersburg or downtown Elkins. Houses could be a mile, 2 miles.
Yeah.
So they pick them up in front of their house. But now he says we're going to have meeting points. So instead of a bus route making 20 stops, they'll make 10. He said up the Allegheny Mountains, such and such will have to bring their kid down to Harman. So his goal, his way of getting the kids on the bus less than 60 minutes was having less stops, having parents have to drive kids in to like a pickup stop, right? So we're not rural, but we live not in suburban, America. And we had to drive either like 10 seconds to the next drive over. And we do it because it's a 4-lane, it's a Route 220, right? But his proposal for kids to be not on the bus 50 minutes was to be in their parents' car for longer.
How did they say what the mileage was? What the longest mileage was?
For
They wanted someone to drive.
They did not. They first off.
That's why I believe there should be more interaction.
Well,
you should be allowed to say, "Well, how long do I have to drive my child? 20 minutes? So I'm gonna have to drive my 20 minutes."
We were allowed to ask questions, and one of the Board of Education members said, "Can you put your chart up of bus routes?" After we were done with our conversations, then they talked, so we didn't really have a chance to rebut it. They have a chance to rebut what we say. So he finally put it up and showed it. So it was like from 20 stops to 10 stops. And so parents, doesn't matter if they work, doesn't matter, they have to get their kids to hear, right? A good question that was asked by one of the Board of Education members: what happens if you go to drop a kid off at their house and parents are not there to collect them?
You're not allowed to drop them off at a certain age.
And guess what you have to do?
You have to take them back to the school.
Back to Elkins. And a bus driver on the Board of Education asked that question, which is a great question. And he's like, "Well, we really don't have that problem." That's what Nick said. "Oh, we don't have that issue." Well, dude,
it happens in Petersburg all the time.
I know from the kids that we're connected with that it happens, and sometimes CPS gets called.
Yeah.
The parents don't pick them up. But in Petersburg, they drive a mile back to the school. Imagine being a parent who's stuck at work, something happened, misses her kid, and they have to drive to Elkins. Then another good question. How many kids are diabetic in Harman that would be on the bus? They had no clue. They have no clue. Even if they said none, they had no clue. They didn't know how many kids were diabetic. They knew nothing about Harman.